So I want to talk about the best way to shut down the LGBTQ plus people. So, when it comes to their violence, their rioting, when they go out in these crowds and fight people that, are expressing their freedoms and stuff. And when they go into the professional world and, they make all these false accusations against people and, try to get people fired and they try to gain power and all this stuff. So that stuff, you just have to expose it as it is and understand that there are a lot of wicked people in the positions of power that make decisions on who's innocent and who's guilty, who gets arrested, who doesn't, all this stuff. And they work together. But, you're going to have to use law enforcement and stuff against that. But as far as just arguing their rationality for the perverted thing that they believe in, you have to find out where is their limit. Okay, so they're talking about intercourse. They're talking about intimacy. So what's the limit for these people? Okay, is it bestiality? Is it pedophilia? Where do they place a limit on who you can have intercourse with? So, okay, you find their limit. All right, and they're probably aware of what you're doing when you try to bring up this argument, but this is how, and they try to shut you down and say you're being crazy and make all these false accusations. Okay, but this is just the best way to do it, to show that they're illogical. So you get them to admit that there's some kind of limit. If they don't say there's a limit, they look absolutely crazy. All right, and everybody knows that, and they know that. So they know that they have to say there's some kind of limit, or they're just deemed as absolutely crazy and they have no footing for manipulation. So you get them to admit their limit, whether it's bestiality, pedophilia, those are usually the big two. And then you ask them, okay, why is that your limit? Like, why is that not allowed? So then they give you some They're usually not going to have this conversation because they know what's happening, right? But if somehow you get them to have this conversation, they'll tell you why they believe this limit should be there. So then you're like, okay, well, that logic that you just gave to me, okay, so the logic's usually going to be like, well, it's for the well-being of the community and, for humanity and stuff. It's not good to engage in these things. So you're like, okay, well, with that same logic, I believe that homosexuality is bad. Okay, I believe that changing your sex and stuff is bad. Like, you just use whatever logic they have on their limitations against what they're standing for. And that's just how you argue with it. It's so simple. Then you're like, look, we live in a nation where we propose laws and we vote on them. So I would like to see legislation, presented that would make homosexuality illegal again because I believe it's harmful. You can't fight me or try to say I'm so outlandish and stuff for believing in that. All right? And that's it. Okay, you're like, I'm not gonna wage war with the nation, and I'm not gonna try to take away the rights that you have based on the legislation that has been passed making homosexuality legal. Okay, but I would like to see it illegal again. It's like saying I would like to see prohibition happen again, but I'm not gonna go fight you and stuff because you have alcohol. Okay, so that's just how you shut them down. You find their limit. Okay, they're always going to have a limit because if they don't have a limit, they know they lose their whole manipulative footing. And then you just go from there with that same reasoning, unless they have some weird reasoning. But, with that reasoning, I believe that the stuff that you stand for is also bad. It's also perverted. And that's just the easiest way to shut them down. And get them to, look like a hypocrite. Okay, they can't explain why what they do is beneficial in a logical manner. And that's it. So yeah, when it comes to their crime, understand that they might have allies in the criminal justice system that promote their oppressive behavior. But you're gonna have to call them out. Provide evidence and stuff of them attacking people, of them defaming people. That kind of stuff, like their hostile behavior. And then when it comes to just a matter of logic, like combating their position, that's a good way to go about it, is finding their limit and their explanation. And you'll probably be able to use that explanation to get them to contradict whatever they're standing for.